Welcome to In the Barracks, a place for prior and active duty service members, first responders, and their friends and family to hang out and talk about life. The Barracks is a place to share thoughts, ideas, accomplishments, and dreams with the goal of encouraging people to stay connected to the world and do the same for others.
We're here today in the Barracks with myself, Steve Gatlin, Mr. Michael Pritchard, Dr. Tim Wally, and the inventor, creator of the Temple Massager, Mr. Joe Meisch, all the way from Cazadero, California. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Glad to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me on the Barracks.
Yeah, man. What's going on up there?
Well, you know, we're doing our thing, isolating like we're supposed to, and that can be a challenge. So, you know, just as a PSA, I hope everybody stays safe and isolated. But I'm working hard in the company, actually, man. I got a lot of things going on with the Temple Massager, even though it's kind of isolated. I turned it on in different ways to stay busy and filing more patents and creating more relationships and getting the business going in different ways. So, you know, it's like in the military, you adapt, improvise, and overcome, huh?
Yeah. Well, we had you on here. You know, we obviously we know you, and we have a friendship relationship with you on a bunch of levels. But talk about the Temple Massager a little bit. I know you got one sitting right there. You can hold up to. Oh wait, I even have one right here. Look at that. Boom. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, you know, this is the device, obviously. I designed it at the end of my Army career because I was dealing with facial muscle clenching in my jaw, particularly. And
what year was that, Joe?
That was a long time ago. That was, 1997, 98. It was the end of my military career after 15 years. And so I was dealing with clenching and facial muscle, and then I would get headaches. I'd get migraines. I'd get a lot of tension headaches and migraines. And so literally one day, I'm coming back from an Allman Brothers concert at Shoreline Amphitheater, and I'm driving. I'm the designated driver, and I got a carload of designated drunks, college buddies, and like the headlights from oncoming traffic on the way home were kind of bugging my eyes, and I could kind of feel this tensing up, and I thought, oh no, I'm hoping I don't get a migraine, you know, and it's kind of scary when you got to drive and you got a migraine. It's really intense, and the lights really hurt your eyes. So I literally had a pair of sunglasses on my head up here, and I pulled them down, and so the arms were going like this around my eyes. So I'm holding the glasses, and I'm driving the car, doing the speed limit, and I just felt this stimulation around my eyes, and it felt relaxing, and I kind of let my eyes close for a second on and off, and I felt relief. And I literally, at that moment, thought to myself, I'm going to buy a Temple Massager tomorrow. And that literally was the sparks of an idea. And so I literally started looking around online, and it didn't exist. I could not find a Temple Massager. Long story short, couldn't find it. I got a hold of a patent attorney, and I had some prototypes made, sketches, and this patent attorney was in my local area, and we wrote a patent. And you know, he basically gave me his prices, and I kind of laughed. I'm like, dude, I can't afford that, you know, and how am I going to get this done? And so he was like, well, you need to write the patent. So go look at other products that are similar to yours. Doesn't have to be the same thing. Obviously, it doesn't exist. So something close. Get their patents and then fill in your specific information, kind of a boilerplate, if you will.
Yeah.
So I literally wrote my own patent, and then I gave it to him, and he would advise me a little bit here and there. And finally, he took it from there, and he did the final draft. So he combed through it with the legalese and kind of rewrote what I had created. So I actually wrote my patent, and then we filed the patent, and I got a patent. And so that's kind of the inception of the whole thing. And, you know, really it just kind of, this kind of comes from an Army grunt with a headache needing a forked stick, you know? So the thing was, I realized when I'm going like this and I'm massaging my head and my jaw, under here, my masseter muscle right here, when I'm holding my arms up like everybody else, you're engaging the middle of your neck, your shoulders, your arms. So just holding your arms up means you're engaging 400 times more musculature than what you're trying to relax in your masseter and your temporalis. So, that's called grossly inefficient. That's like picking up 10 pounds of weight to move 1 pound. And in Army world, that's called really dumb. So the forked stick basically allows my arms and hands to come down, and I can just sit here and get a great pressure adjusted temple massage with my device. So, you know what, because I didn't have money, and this is such a wild idea, nobody would back me. People thought it was ridiculous and stupid. Okay, but the thing was, so I patented it, to look like this, but I could not afford to mold this product. So my first version didn't have an adjuster turnbuckle right here. It was just one set. And so it was really primitive. And I had to go with that. And so, that's at the same time I was already transitioning out of the military. I officially separated our V.E.T.S in 2000. And so I had my basic version out and was really green behind the ears, not knowing how to take something to the market, if you will. And the patent was still kind of in the process. I didn't have it. It took a few years to get that. So
I know you have this period, and even today you have kind of one of the core foundations of your company is to give back and to give. And I mean, now you say give back because you actually are to market, and you've sold quite a few, and it's growing and evolving. But before it was a give back, you were just giving, right? I mean, I think you gave away thousands of these things before. Yeah. I mean, maybe selling them along the way, but talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so I don't mean to sound like sour grapes on this. I'm just going to tell the story because it's real. Okay, so when I had this idea and I came out with it, I read medical literature, and it said to keep the facial muscles relaxed to prevent and relieve temporomandibular joint disorder, TMD, headaches, bruxism. Because the facial muscles are overused and they clench and you get headaches. It's like holding your arm up all the time, all day long. It's going to get sore. So I also started looking at Eastern literature, Eastern medicine. And so I kind of quickly saw that Western medicine literature said to keep the facial muscles relaxed and to massage them to accommodate that relaxed state. It's all over literature. You can read it everywhere. Yeah. It's easy to find. This is not cherry-picked information. Sure. And then the Eastern medicine was historical in nature. So Tibetan monks have been using temple massaging for like 3,000 years, recorded historical practices. I added an aromatherapy pad, which is this little white pad right here, and you simply put the included lavender on the pad. So as I'm getting a massage, I'm breathing deep, the lavender's right there. So aromatherapy is 4,000 years old from Ayurveda, India, and China. And then I made an acupressure tip. So that's a single tip. That's because there's 21 acupressure points accumulated on the side of the cranium. So I saw acupressure as one of these 3 holistic practices in Eastern medicine literature. Well, Eastern and Western medicine support each other. This is medical literature I read. So when everybody else is partying and having fun at night, I'm sitting here reading medical papers, okay? So whatever. That's not a lot of fun. And guess what?
Well, feeling Joe. But that was,
Tim knows that one.
Yeah, Tim knows nothing about that. But at the same time, you are at the Casadero Brain Institute. So, I'm just saying.
Neuroscience Institute. Nobody likes to hang out here, by the way.
Joe, I have a question.
Yes.
There's a famous movie star who suffered indescribable, and Tim will understand this. I don't know the particulars of it, but it cost him, that kind of particular pain cost him his career, and that was Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds, he had jaw and brain stuff. Then he got on what they call the pain pills, whatever the pain pills were, and it caused him to be irascible. And Tim and you would understand, you know, that when you're on those pills and you're trying to look for some sort of relief, some sort of healing from it, your idea is so simple and yet effective. And here's how I know that. Because we gave mine to one of the guys who had post-traumatic stress disorder from our group. He had problems, and he started to use your temple massager, and he was getting incredible pain relief, incredible consciousness, because we were teaching him also what you teach is to practice this with meditation and prayerful intention. And it started to alleviate, and the wife looked at me and said, it was just so simple we couldn't believe it.
Yep, stupid simple. And that deep breathing and mindfulness is what you got to practice when you're using the device. I never heard that story, actually, Michael. I'm really glad you shared that with me. That's huge, and I'm really grateful. That is one of the things, that's what I call a marching order.
I understand.
We've donated 4,000. My company's donated just over 4,000 devices to date, okay? And that's going back to 2007. And the reason I gave it away was because I had to go through a crucible. I had to get my ass kicked. And Buddhists say suffering is necessary at times. In life, it is important to be able to have some different perspective. And, you know, getting your ass kicked a little bit gives you a different perspective sometimes. And that happened to me. And so as a result,
wisdom in suffering.
Yeah, I didn't let it ruin me. What it did was I channeled that ass kicking to a positive thing. And so at the time when I'm getting the patent going on and I'm developing the device, I'm getting my ass kicked when I'm trying to figure out how to go to the market, sell a new product. And at the time, a lot of my friends were getting deployed to Iraq, okay, and Afghanistan. And my friend, Mike Ottolini, Sergeant First Class Ottolini, he was my supervisor when I got out in '98. Mike was KIA in Iraq, and I went to his funeral. And Mike was a great guy. He's from Sebastopol, California. And that kind of triggered a thing with me that I had a soldier drowned on me when I was 20 years old during training with the Army Reserve at Camp Roberts. And that was Private Curtis Young from Oakland, California. And so when Mike died, you know, I'm basically being mocked and laughed at and ignored. And investors were like, hey, we want to make your thing in China, or we're not going to back you. And we don't want to go medical because it's too hard and too difficult. And I was coming from this perspective of service. You know, I served 13 years. I served with two guys that gave all. I'm a hard worker. I was a combat engineer in the Army. That's a very difficult job. My knees are blown out from it. And I'm not afraid of hard work. And so these guys, these investor class folks were afraid of hard work, and they weren't stoked about making it in USA, and I was. And so as a result, I chose to give it away. So that was my reaction. What can I do? Well, I could give it away. I'm a happy guy. I'm happy to be alive, man. I'm cool. So I don't need money to be happy. It's in my genes. Thank God for that. So I'll continue to go to work and do construction, and I'll live my life the best I can. I'm going to be happy along the way, and we're giving the temple massagers away. So I start getting these letters and emails and phone calls and comments, and I start going and giving them away to veteran service organizations, all kinds of different veteran service nonprofits, Vet Connect, VSOs, all these different places. And then I start donating to Walter Reed extensively, and they put my device in Behavioral Health Chaplain's Office Resiliency Clinic since 2007. So I get these emails and phone calls. Those are marching orders. So all the noise I hear from the investors and the people that are mocking me thinking this looks really dumb and stupid, what I hear is service members, veterans, and first responders telling me my product helps. That's real. Those are people that are going through heavy shit, that are dealing with PTS, that are dealing with TBI, that are dealing with all kinds of wounds, invisible and physical. I'm listening to them. So that was my motivation to give it away. And that fires me up in case it doesn't come through.
Yeah, but Joe, it doesn't sound bitter to me at all. It sounds well-informed and wise, because there's a great line by Victor Hugo: nothing can stop an idea whose time has come.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. No, Joe, I love the passion that you're bringing across.
Yeah, me too. Proud of them.
Yeah, man, this is what you're doing is just unbelievable. I've spent 25 years, trying to help patients with, a myriad of things, but oftentimes what we're trying to treat is something that's invisible. It's called anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, and it exhibits itself oftentimes in the jaw, in the muscular system, in the face. And I see it from time to time, and oftentimes we will have a patient that's either in chronic or acute pain, and we as dentists kind of struggle to find good methods to treat them. The common school of thought in today's dental world is to give people a night guard, and we equilibrate that and adjust it. But oftentimes, the source behind what's going on is anxiety, and it exhibits itself in the muscular system, in the facial, in the face. So we've got to, get the temporomandibular joint. We've got to get the teeth and the muscular system functioning in harmony. And oftentimes that's not happening. You throw stress of the day in there, anxiety, depression, traumatic events, and pretty soon, says it in the Bible, man, gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here struggling as dentists to try and get these people out of pain. And so, and there's different schools of thought on that, more of kind of an orthopedic style thought that's a little bit more archaic. But I was so excited because progressively in dentistry, what we see is a more neuromuscular approach to this concept. And man, I think you got some really good stuff going on, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I've learned a lot from the medical community and people like you helping inform me, because I don't have a medical background at all. So,
Yeah.
It's been very important for me to be open-minded, to listen to other people that know more than me, so I can take that and incorporate in what I'm doing. I want to do the best job I can. I'm in it to help people. I wouldn't have given $4,000 away if I was in it for the money, obviously. So, so that's where it came from, the holistic practices, the medical literature. I got two guys I serve with that gave all I keep in mind. And when I donate, I tell people, like I'll send some to Walter. I sent 2 cases about a month ago or 2 weeks ago. And I always write a letter and I say, hey, thank you for accepting this. I'm appreciate it. And thank you for taking care of our service members and veterans. And I say things like, this was brought to you by Sergeant First Class Michael Ottolini, Private Curtis Young, sponsored by Private Curtis Young, Sergeant First Class Ottolini, things like that. I still drop.
Good man, Joe.
I let people know their names because Curtis was a 19-year-old kid from Oakland. And one day, I'd like to try to look up his folks if I can find families, surviving family members. And I'd like to let them know that he lives through me and that he is helping many people through his sacrifice. And I hope it means something to them that he's still alive. And this is part of him, man. He did this, because I'd look in the mirror when it got hard and ugly and you're being laughed at, humiliated, and mocked because this looks dumb. I'd go look in the mirror and I'd be really pissed off. And I'm like, why aren't people listening to me? And I'm like, man, am I blowing this? And then I'd look at a letter from Walter Reed. And I'm like, you're not going to get letters like that. I got a letter from a combat commander on Army letterhead stating the product acted as a natural form of combat stress relief. That's on my website. Company commanders that are in combat every day in Afghanistan do not have the time, the inclination to write bullshit letters to guys like me back at home on Camp Couch in Cazadero Neuroscience Institute. So that letter is, of huge gravity to me. And that tells me I'm doing the right thing. So when it was bad and I'm on my own, nobody's listening, I would literally go in the mirror and I'd look at myself and I'd say, dude, this is ugly. This is hard. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yep.
You serve with 2 guys that gave all. Short of giving all, what are you prepared to give for your brothers and sisters? Well, I I had to get research. So I learned enough that because my information came from around the world, I've donated around the world. North Africa, Middle East, Iraq, Kuwait, Djibouti, Bahrain, Longstool, Afghanistan, South Korea, Japan, you name it. I sent them where service members are deployed. And so I get feedback from these different locations, geographic different locations. So technically speaking, that's called anecdotal data. And because people from different parts of the planet are saying the same thing, that's called corroborated anecdotal data. That's powerful. Yeah. So I could never find research because I'm not qualified to do pilot level research. I don't have a research PhD background, okay? So I couldn't get it. I'm failing. No, we don't have the bandwidth. I don't get it. I don't think it's there. And then I got a hold of a Dr. Maheen Adamson at VA Palo Alto, and she called, her admin person I debriefed and sent the letters to. They called me back in 20 minutes. Like I told them everything, and I showed them the letters. 20 minutes later, they called me, and I'm like, wow. And they said, hey, our director, who's a neuroscientist from Stanford School of Medicine Neuroscience, would like to talk with you. And I said, okay, cool. What's your availability? And she says, how about tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.? And I said, okay, I got somebody's attention.
Yeah, what else do you need? Yeah.
So I talked to
her.
They're
hearing you.
I debriefed everything to her. She was a very patient lady. She listened to everything I had to say. I did not use profanity. And you appreciated that.
What a struggle.
It was, talk about a struggle, man. There's the ultimate one right for me. So she says, I understand everything you just said. And I covered the medical literature and Eastern medicine and the whole bit. Long story short, she has been collecting data. We're 50% through a pilot study right now where they're looking at the temple massager for traumatic brain injury, chronic tension headache relief, and as a sleep aid in a drug-free, non-invasive manner. Now that's called CAM therapy, complementary alternative medicine, CAM therapy. On the street, it's called holistic practices, right? That gets in the aromatherapy, the massage, and all that. So they're 50% through a pilot study. It's positive. I continue to get positive feedback and testimonies from combat veterans that are amazing.
Right.
And, so, you know, that's kind of the genesis of how I came up with the idea. Why? Because I was suffering my own problem. Like a good engineer, I should be solving problems.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. What do you tell young people out there when they are entrepreneurs and inventors themselves about not quitting, not giving up, pursuing that dream to accomplish the healing on behalf of your brothers who you lost in the military? How do you tell them to not quit dreaming and making that miracle happen and never quit 1 minute before the miracle happens? Why do you tell them you have to pursue this? Because in the middle of this research, they're starting to find out that you were, after all, correct in what you were doing and why you were doing it.
Yep. I'm going to answer that. I want to add to one thing, and I'm going to answer that. And I love sharing what I have learned to people for free, by the way. So hold that thought. What I just described to you is a physiological effect. So when I tell you that it's helping with jaw pain and headaches, I tell people you have to relax your mouth. So you have to let it hang open, right? And nobody wants to do that in public and whatever, that's fine. I literally will stretch my jaw open a little bit. I'll stretch this out. So when you're dealing with headaches and the TMD, that's physiological. That's musculature stimulation to get it to relax, to relieve the aches and pains, just like if you went and got a massage on your leg or your back or your foot, right? That's muscle stimulation, physiology. What I come to find from working with people at Stanford, I work with the Dr. Mark Abramson, who founded the Stanford School of Medicine Mindfulness-Based Stress Clinic. I work with Dr. Maheen Adamson. She's a neuroscientist from Stanford Neuroscience. And so what I found was I told them, I said, look, I have people telling me, veterans, combat veterans, telling me my device stops them from thinking. Combat commander's letter said the product acted as a natural form of combat stress relief. Walter Reed tells me verbally, Joe, your product's acting as a drug-free distractor. Well, they're saying the same thing. And that's a psychological effect that I come to find out my device provides. That psychological effect is that when you're, just to use an analogy, because Dr. Abrams at Stanford explained this to me, he says, Joe, your product's triggering the relaxation response. And I said, well, what's that? And he says, well, look, man, there's a stress response, there's a relaxation response. When you have a stress response, you saw a car accident. You were in a car accident. You saw violence, or you were part of violence. You were in the military. You went to combat. Something bad happened. Abuse, sexual abuse, doesn't matter. Bad stuff.
Trauma.
Is bad stuff. That's called trauma.
Trauma. Right.
So people that have dealt with trauma, they have triggers, okay? And it doesn't matter what it is. There's different ones for different people. And so what happens is you start ruminating about negative thoughts and stuff you've been through. And what happens, your brain plays along. So if you're thinking about ruminating about flashbacks, whatever you want to call them, about negative stuff, your brain will produce adrenaline and cortisol, even though you're not in the situation. Just thinking about it, because something triggered you. A smell, a sound, an action, a product room, who knows what doesn't matter. When you're triggered, you're dumping adrenaline and cortisol. That's bad for you if you don't need it. Long-term exposure to cortisol will eat the lining of heart valves. Combat veterans have a life decrease of 7 to 9 years because of overexposure to cortisol and adrenaline. Adrenaline leaves the body pretty quickly. Cortisol, I think, sticks around. I might have it reversed, but the thing is, if you're sitting around ruminating about bad stuff, you keep dumping this brain chemistry, you're decreasing your ability to experience joy in this world, and you're ruining your heart valves. It's hard on your body to have this constant exposure. So they told me, the doctors and people from Stanford said, Joe, it's triggering a relaxation response. That means just like if you're getting a massage, you're laying down at the table and they're working on your sore leg, foot, back, and you like it and it feels good, what comes out of your mouth at that moment? You just triggered autonomic nervous system stimulation to the brain such that a delay reaction happening out of your mouth comes, or oh yeah, that feels good. That's triggering dopamine, endorphin, serotonin, and maybe one other one. Dopamine, endorphin, serotonin. Yeah, that's the brain chemistry switch. Relaxation response. We're finding out my product helps with. And I collected data from Paradise, California, from the fire, because I donated a couple cases to the first responders. In fact, Steve, you went up there with me.
Yes, we did.
And I got a spreadsheet back from them from a handful of surveys. It's hard to get data, but I got enough. I got surveys back that the first responders were through the anonymous surveys were stating it helps them with stopping or decreasing the length of negative intrusive thoughts. So just like you're getting a massage and you're saying, are you thinking about anything else? No. You're thinking about, this feels good, man. I'm rolling with it, right? I'm not thinking about my problems or what happened to me or the future.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So that's the psychological trip that I'm hearing from people from Stanford. They explained it to me, and some doctors at Dominican College in San Rafael. They helped me understand that. So this device is actually potentially, and we're working on the proof, but anecdotally, I will tell you, this $60 device can change brain chemistry in a drug-free way through the stimulation of delivering that, it feels good. So there's a psychological trip. It's physiological and psychological. And so our pilot study with the VA is for tension headaches, which is the physiological, and for sleep aid. That's the stopping you from thinking, distracting you, keeping those negative thoughts away. So when you're laying in bed and you put a aromatherapy on there, lavender or whatever you want, and you just kick back, you put a pillow here, and it's lights out, and you're not thinking. Suddenly, you're predisposed to not think and go to sleep in that state, which is a beautiful place to be, instead of having all these thoughts about what happened today, my past. I got to go to work tomorrow and I don't want to. My car's broke down. All that shit. Stop. Just stop it all.
There's a global pandemic. Anything.
Pandemic.
Yeah, but you've been researching, Joe. This amount of research that you're downloading to Dr. Tim and Steve and I is amazing. You're like genius level.
Well,
what you've researched and studied.
Don't tell Steve that.
Right? and oh, by the way, you're the first combat engineer that ever cursed. That's what's stunning.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know who's a great combat engineer I found out was Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks was a combat engineer in World War II.
Wow.
He never curses.
Yeah.
So,
well, hey, Joe, we see this. I see this clinically day in and day out. I've seen it for 25 years. People coming in, hey, doc, I got this clicking, popping in the right side. Typically, when we do our job examinations and x-rays and, evaluate the TMD, more often than not, you can palpate the masseter muscles, you can palpate the temporalis, and you can find these hot spots on people in, within about 10 seconds, and I tell patients all the time, I said, it sounds silly, but, get in there and work it out. You can get your thumbs. Now the temple massager, for crying out loud, you got this device where you can decrease that firing that's caused from stress. And like you said, it's compounding. And so I see this clinically day in and day out. So I think what you're doing is just awesome. And it's going to give us another
I agree.
instrument. It's going to give us another instrument as dentists to help folks with jaw joint discomfort and
well,
PTSD
and bringing it kind of full circle back to in the barracks, which of course this show is under the umbrella and benefits V.E.T.S Mobile Dental Unit. Joe, of course, was invited and joined our board of directors. So he's has this device that he's been giving around the world and gotten it all the way to this point through the veteran channels, active duty and veteran channels. But now, he's part of our organization as well, which we're very proud to have him, from the inside, working with from the V.E.T.S Mobile Dental Unit on the board of directors. So, I mean, what was that? What does that mean to you, Joe, to kind of be a part of our organization as an outside entrepreneur veteran with a device that helps veterans coming on board our organization, which of course is what we're doing from the inside the trailer?
You know what? I'm really so pleased that you guys are doing what you're doing, and for me to be part of that, I look at as an honorable thing. I take great pride in the fact that I'm working with you guys, and it tells me that the temple massager is real. It's helping. You're taking it seriously. You can see the results. And I have a great sense of pride about being part of this. And I want to bring whatever I can bring to drive your mission forward, because your mission with you and Tim and his professionalism in the dental capacity is sorely needed. And just from where you're coming from, the heart, and donating these services is right in line with my motivation, and that's honor to service. That's honor to service to our country, to our brothers and sisters who serve and have served, and that goes all the way back to everybody that's ever wore the uniform for the history of our country. And I have a family member that fought the British, so my family's been here since 1740, and I'm a member of the Sons of the American Revolution. And one day I'd like to visit Jonathan Hobby's grave, and I'd like to look down and then look up and say, man, I want you to know that it was worth it. And it's things like joining the V.E.T.S Mobile Dental Unit that give me the ability to say that, because we're doing good stuff for the right reasons, and that's honor of service, man. So,
Amen, my brother. Amen, Joe.
Vets Mobile Dental Unit is a big part of me feeling good about what I'm doing. And I'm glad that you see the value in the Temple Massager to extend your mission out and to accomplish your goals that you came up with. And I'm honored to be part of it.
Well, when we're getting to know you before Vets Mobile Dental Unit was had even started. We were already kind of connected with you. You and I had traveled to Chico, but to go up to Paradise to take the devices there soon after, just a couple months after the fires, of course. And we drove through there. And I mean, it was just, that day was very haunting even now. I mean, myself being a Hurricane Andrew survivor, when I got back from that trip, it took me some time to kind of, it still hasn't left me, but it was something going up there was just kind of brought a lot back for me. So that was something that was very important for me to do, to go on that trip with you. But then, the Vets Mobile Dental Unit started to evolve, and it continues to evolve. And I know that along the way last year, you had a great article in the San Francisco Chronicle that came out that spawned a great surge of sales. And as a result, you had donated 2 cases of Temple massagers to Vets Mobile Dental Unit for our first clinic, so that we can, every veteran that comes through to get the dental services from us will be walking out the door with a Temple massager, so that they can, when they return to wherever they're living, they can kind of work on some of these issues like you're talking about, and Tim has talked about as well. But even beyond that, I mean, I see this as something that when that donation is gone that you gave to us, I want to be able to go out and find sponsorships from outside sponsors to say, okay, well, this clinic's coming up and we need 50 Temple massagers to give to these veterans, and be able to solicit a donation from someone to pay for those Temple massagers, so that we can say, this Temple massager, was given to you from Temple Massager on behalf of, Marin County Ford or Staples, or, any company, person, business that we can find that can make it so that everyone that comes through the Vets Mobile Dental Unit, some way, shape, or form, walks out of there with one of these. Because this is something that when we treat them for a day and they have to go back home, and they're still dealing with a lot of the, we've helped them that day, but they're still going to go home and they're going to be thinking have some of the PTSD going. They'll have physical pain. They'll have things that they're dealing with. They can take a Temple massager with them to kind of to work with until we can see them again.
You're making a really good point. Like to add, I've gone to a ton of veteran support events, business pitch plan contests, all kinds of stuff like that. And it's great when veterans get together, because you feel that family again. You feel that camaraderie and that love and that brotherhood, that's rare. It's hard to find in this world. And so while we're there and with these events, it's great. Everybody feels good. And if you're dealing with some PTS because you've been through some stuff, or if you're dealing with TBI or whatever, it kind of goes in the back when you're in these events, and you kind of feel good, maybe you have a beer or whatever, and it feels lighthearted, and you're smiling, and it's good to see somebody you haven't seen for a while, and maybe meet a new veteran friend, and it's great at the moment. And what I noticed was a lot of people, at some point, we're going to have to go home, okay? And we're going to go back to wherever we live, and wherever we live, there are forces at work on us, okay? So I looked at things like this, and I'm like, okay, well, when you go home, what do you got? You got the memory, the camaraderie is there, but it kind of fades away, and the hoorah fades away a little bit. It's just real. And then what are you left with? You're left with some literature, man. You're left with some paperwork and some phone numbers, paper, right? So I like to, let veterans know this came from a veteran, and it's made in USA. And you're taking it home with you. And awesome. I've told many veterans at VSO groups and whatnot, and I said, listen, I'm way past my ego. I'm here to serve, period. And so If you're thinking, I tell them what the PhDs are saying, what the combat commanders are saying, what veterans are saying. And then I say, look, you know, I want to tell you what I'm going to say, what I got to say now. And that is this. I'm your brother. And we don't know each other, but we're veterans. So we're on the same team. And I've got a self-appointed mission to help you. And so I'm literally here begging you. I'm not past that. I'm past that. I'm not worried about begging. I'm begging you, man, woman. If you're thinking about things are bad and ugly and nobody loves you and you're alone, you're isolated, nobody cares, I want you to know that I care. And that there's a free temple massager here for you that I made for you. And you're going to take that home. And I'm begging you here right now, if you're thinking about putting a bottle of pills to your head or a bottle of alcohol to your head, or if you think about putting a gun to your head, I'm begging you to put this to your head and give yourself a moment break. Just take a break, man. Stop thinking. It's what the combat commander said, Walter Reed said, veterans say. Please just give yourself a break. Man, I made this thing out of ballistic nylon. It's tough. It's been in combat. Ballistic nylon is what the pistol grip and hand guards are made of on the M16 and the M4, okay? So I kind of shaped the handle a little bit like a pistol grip. A lot of veteran clinicians have told me, Veterans Administration clinicians have told me, Joe, too many veterans hold guns and for safety and security. Oh, there goes my light. And so I thought about that and I thought, well, what if I made the temple massager feel like a gun a little bit? And then maybe it's something instead of a gun they can hold. So I tell people that, I put that messaging out there, and I know a lot of people told me it helps them. And so, you know, a big part of this has been listening to people to develop this device.
Well, Joe, so just fired up for your project and what it brings to everybody. And I'm just so fortunate and humbled to have you guys on our board for Vets Mobile. And I think there's some exciting things to come.
Absolutely. Yeah,
for everybody. And
thanks for having me on board. Thanks for all of your effort, Tim and Steve, for the work that you do. I know it takes time and energy, and I appreciate the fact that you focused and you drill down and you see a mission in what you're doing. And I'm happy to support you in however way I can.
What's the latest evolution in using the temple massager?
When you're rubbing the skin, you know, on your temple, it can build a little friction. It can kind of irritate your skin a little bit. So with somebody you connected me through, CB's roll-ups, which I have one right here. This is the newest addition to the product line. Oops, fumble, to temple massager. So CB's is called CB's because of the person, Carolyn, who developed this product, is in honor of her grandfather, who was a Navy CB in the South Pacific in World War II. And I love that because that's in line with honor of service, yet again. And so she made this roll-up that fits up in the handle of the temple massager. And then I had her add a custom blend of arnica, which is a natural pain reliever. And I had her add St. John's wort, because that's anti-inflammatory. And as it turns out, it also helps with fine wrinkles on your skin. So if you're worried about your wrinkles, so basically you take this roll-up and you roll it up. And you put a little on your temple and a little on your jaw. And then you take the temple massager and it just glides. It breaks the friction. It glides beautifully, getting a natural painkiller, anti-inflammatory, and it just helps tremendously. It feels good and it glides. This is a huge new addition that we're adding to the temple massager value at no extra cost. I'm not upping my price. We're including this as part of your purchase on the temple massager. And so CB's Roll-Ups is a great new partner of ours. I'm really happy about that. So Michael, I want to answer your question. This is not easy. you know, I'm not going to candy coat this, man. Innovation. You got to be innovative. So that's a very tough task to get a patent on anything. I don't care what it is, okay? I got a patent. Here's a patent number right there. So that's hurdle one, or what I like to call mountain range one. So you got 100 guys and you're going over a mountain range, you get a patent. It's mount, get a patent. Only 20 of you are going to survive that trek. Well, guess what? Your patent looks good on your wall. It's not going to do anything for you. You have to go through another mountain range, and that's called bring it to the market. So what does that mean? That means you got to show the people of the world and your country where you live that this has a spot for a current unmet need. In other words, people have to find benefit in this, or it's not going to get sold. Nobody's going to buy something they don't need. So you have to get it to the market. That's the second task, if you will. That has, historically speaking, statistically speaking, an 80% failure rate of all new business within 2 to 5 years. 80% failure rate. So you got 20% minus 80%. What does that leave you? 5%? I never was good at math. So
Don't ask me.
Effectively, you got like a 5% chance of bringing something to the market that's never been done before. We're doing it. Not only are we doing it, we started by giving it away to service members, veterans, and first responders. And if it's going to be medical, you got the third mountain range you got